Discover prototypical track and turnouts with the Roadmaster series from Oak Hill Model Railroad Track Supply. Proudly made in the United States, Oak Hill's handcrafted turnouts provide unparalleled detail and accuracy, giving your layout museum-quality track work at an affordable price. Whether fully built or in easy-to-assemble kit form, Roadmaster provides all the details of real track. Looking for a custom piece of track work? Oak Hill can help with custom turnouts, diamonds, crossings, and more. Check out all of their offerings on their website, ohrtracksupply.com. TrainFest 2025 is almost here, and Tully Models will be there. Make your way to Milwaukee November 1st and 2nd, then head to the Craftsman Courtyard in the Baird Center. There you'll find demonstrations and clinics featuring the Tully Models brands, including Industrial Modeler Supply and Southern Tier Grain Modeler Supply, plus 2 big announcements you won't want to miss. Come see for yourself how Tully Models can help bring more realism to your layout industries. Learn more about Tully Models at TrainFest 2025 at tullymodels.com. Scale signs, the signs that bring your models to life, are now available at Spring Creek Model Trains. Now you can shop a wide variety of trackside and roadside signs in Deschler, Nebraska, or at a train show near you. To see where Spring Creek Model Trains will be next, visit their website at springcreekmodeltrains.com. And to see the entire catalog of signs in N, HO, S, and O scale, head to scalesigns.com. ATLP Extra is our monthly newsletter delivered right to your inbox each month. Sign up for free at atlpextra.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Around the Layout, where model railroaders come to tell their story. My name is Ray Arnott. So glad you could join us. In late September, I attended the second annual Colorado Rail Proto Meet in Greeley, Colorado. It was my first time attending this new RPM hosted by the fine folks at the Colorado Model Railroad Museum, and it happened to be my first time visiting the museum as well. Coupled with the Home Shops Freelance Forum, the CORPM delivered their own unique approach to a railroad prototype modelers meet, providing a wide variety of models, modelers, and vendors alike. You've been hearing these conversations over the last 2 weeks. Now it's time for part 3, the final chapter of our conversations we had at the 2025 Colorado Rail Proto Meet. Enjoy. Well, it's time to take a ride down the Georgia Road, and taking us on that little bit of a journey, we got Hank Stevens. Hank, good to talk to you.
It's nice to see you.
Great to see you here at the Colorado Rail Proto Meet. And I'm walking around, we got all these tables just full of models. I think maybe we're going to get Michelle to put some more tables up next year. But you've got them packed full with a lot of your Georgia Road models. Tell us a little bit about the Georgia Road and how you came up with that freelance concept.
Well, I was highly influenced by the V&O Railroad of Alan McClellan and Eric Bruman's Utah Belt. One thing I wanted to do was to create a modern regional, and then it turned into a class 1 for the Southeast. So basically this is my bend on freelance and prototype in the Southeast. The Georgia Road is based semi on the old Central of Georgia and GM&O merger that never happened back in the 60s. I worked for the railroad for a little while, and I had Central of Georgia seniority, so that just kind of all came together. But it's a class 1. It's probably comparable to what KCS was before CP came calling.
Where do you have that line running to and from?
It is a class 1. It's, like I said, it's about the size of KCS. It basically deep south. One of the things I changed history, they acquired the Illinois Central instead of CN in the 1999. So it's pretty much Midwest, deep south, and they also have a Mexican subsidiary called the Rio Pacifico.
The first thing I did when I walked over here and I saw all these drawings that you have created, talk a little bit about what you're doing here.
Artwork became a hobby to actually create the Georgia Road. I got an Alps printer back years and years ago, and we actually went from lettering one letter at a time. Anybody who's been doing it a long time remembers how that you have to find stuff and make it up. Here, we're able to draw our decals, knock off anything. So I have a process where I do concepts, I draw in scale, and then send it off usually to one of the decal printers, one of the I guess, custom decal printers, and then we go from there.
I think that's a big part of the freelance, and one of the things that draws me towards freelance is that ability to have that artistic touch and be able to create your own logos and your own paint schemes and that. Talk about that process for you and how you came up with the Georgia Road logo and the paint schemes that you use now.
Well, the Georgia Road logo is somewhere in between the Central of Georgia rectangle. It has a little taste of the Burlington route, which is kind of neat because I drove 2 days to be here, and I actually got to see the old Rock Island, which I've read about. I've not very well traveled, and particularly just do something different, but actually follow a prototype too. So.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance that has to be struck between the complete freelance and prototype and being able to bring those two. Talk about how you did that with the Georgia Road.
Well, like I said, I live in the Atlanta area, so I see CSX and Norfolk Southern. I grew up with those. So basically what I did was look around. I didn't know that Alabama had coal mines. They have a pretty good size. So when I started looking for where I was going to model, I wanted to include that because Clinchfield was also a big inspiration. So we actually kind of looked around and decided we're going to do it this way in the South. And it just all kind of fits together. It's been about a 15-year, and I've revised schemes and done things so long, but I kind of basically, there's nothing new in my bag of tricks. I just variation on a thing, you know. But CSX operations, NS operations, you name it.
Awesome stuff. Let's talk about some of these models here as we're going to walk around this side of the table. And Hank, why don't you tell us a little bit about the power that you have out here on display?
Unfortunately, I don't have much Georgia Road. I have the biggest undecorated fleet right now, but this is all part of the design process. I'm literally designing the railroad around the layout. So we'll start on the layout probably next year or so. These, I've got auto racks. I work for a Kia supplier in West Point, Georgia, so I get to see the inside workings of how they move cars around and all that. I've got some prototype models over there. Maintenance away. The year I spent on Norfolk Southern, I was in maintenance away, so I do a lot of that. I enjoy the idea of working those. That's the least looked at part of model rail. Well, it used to be till 3D printing came along.
Yeah, well, when 3D printing came along, I said to this morning in a conversation, it was DCC and then I think 3D printing. You know, you talk about, the big evolutions in the hobby in the last 20 years, and 3D printing has certainly done that. Talk about how that's helped you.
Well, I've got a few pieces here anyway. I met a fellow named Dane Carlisle. He's in North Carolina. He is ex-military. He's got his background is CAD. We got to talking, and I was telling him about a lot of the models that you can't get or have to scratch build. And he said, "Oh, well, let me send you some stuff." And it's just changed the whole thing. I've got log cars and things that are specific to my area that I would have never had. I got Jim Abbott, Highball Graphics. He does a lot of my printing, and he's also the fellow that, Jim, I can't get this to work. What do I do? And, oh, Hank, come on. And it just, but the people, I'm trying to give back. So if anybody out there needs something, give me a holler through my website. If we can fix it for you, we will.
Awesome stuff. And tell us how you can learn more about Georgia Road and, of course, get a hold of you.
On the World Wide Web, preferably look at it on a desktop. The phones are a little bit harder. But it's www.georgiaroadtransportation.com. I hate that it's that long, but that's the only thing I could get. Apparently everybody likes Georgia and Georgia Road on the titles and IRLs and things. But I have my contact information and email there. And like I said, it's not a selling site. It's just a site where I keep all my notes and all my crazy ideas. So.
Well, excellent. And we'll share a link to that on our website, aroundthelayout.com, so that you can make sure to reach out and check out the awesome Georgia Road. I see high cubes, and I think we just met, Hank, so I got to tell you, I've got an affinity for 50-foot high cubes. It's a sickness that has not yet been cured for me. Tell me about these high cubes that are here on the table, because I got to ask about that. Let's walk around and let's take a look at those.
Well, like I said, I do a lot of work for people that I'm kind of in the background. This first one we have here is a Kansas Pacific. It's a friend of mine. His name is Anthony Lorch. He's a UP conductor. He had the name and had the idea, but he wanted a logo. So we took the Texas Longhorn, and I had to draw a face and all that back on it. And then we've developed a whole thing around here. And that's one of the models he actually sent back with my decals on it, just as a thank you. And he's an awesome modeler.
Awesome. And then I see one over here. You've got the Utah belt and a 50-foot high cube as well.
Yeah, we're fans of the Utah belt, and I spent a lot of time doing those decals just so people like me could have some, because you can't get the equipment. If there's stuff on eBay, but I can't afford it. But I can draw the artwork and do the painting and put in the time, and I can have a few cars to represent. Something that made such a big impact in my modeling.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that is neat when you're able to do this and pay tribute to those that have inspired you in the hobby.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. If I give back half of what was been given to me, then I feel like I've done a good job.
Well, that's the spirit. That's the spirit of the entire Colorado Rail Proto Meet, being able to give back, share information. There's no secret being kept in this building when it comes to model railroading. Everything's out on the table, and everybody's sharing and talking about ideas and asking questions and being able to make each other come together. I love the term that, high tide rises all boats, and I do think that spirit does live here at the Colorado Rail Proto Meet, and certainly with you, Hank, in the Georgia Road.
Like I said, this is my first time west of the Mississippi, and I can tell you the folks have been really nice. And again, the things I pick up, there's just so much of it. The only secret is the fact that you can't get to everybody and ask them every question you need to know. I'll have a million of them, but thank goodness most of them, they give you a handshake, give you a card, give you something, and we'll follow up over the next few weeks and months. And that's exciting to have that kind of networking ability.
Yeah, we would need an entire week of a railroad prototype modelers meet. Unfortunately, nobody's got the time like that. I do want to ask before we part ways here, we got one more 50-foot high cube, and I love it because it's got a logo on it that says Big Box. Talk about that high cube.
That is an actual knockoff of the CSX Big Blues. Along with my Class 1, I have a conglomerate of short lines. This is actually a concept of a friend of mine named Damon Curtis. He is a home missionary, so he stays gone a lot, and he doesn't get to model, so I liked his style. So he says, well, do what you want to. So I started working on artwork. And this particular car, it's a paper box car. It comes out of the Southeast. And I always liked the Big Blues that I saw coming through in the 90s and early 2000s. And I said, well, I'm going to do my own. So this is the Florida and Gulf Coast. This is the route of the hurricanes. And if you look right here, here's the double flags and their intermodals. But that's all part of another concept.
Awesome stuff. A lot of creativity going on here with the Georgia Road. And Hank, you got a lot of neat projects going on here. We didn't even get to cover half of what you got here on the table, but a lot of amazing stuff. We'll take some pictures. We'll share them on our website, aroundthelayout.com, and including the link to check out more on the Georgia Road. Hank, thank you so much for taking a few moments to talk to me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Future Ray here. In the time between the Colorado Rail Proto Meet and now, our new friend Hank Stevens had a medical issue, and I just want to wish him a speedy recovery on behalf of all of us here at Around the Layout podcast. Hank, can't wait to see you get better and get back to building the Georgia Road. Well, we have finally arrived. We talked about the freelance forum at the 2025 Colorado Rail Proto Meet. And now we get to meet the man behind the freelance forum, Mr. Chris Palmieri. Chris, good to see you, my friend.
It's good to see you, Ray. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, you stopping by here at the Home Shops booth, and I caught Chris right at lunch. He was a working lunch. One hand had a sandwich in it, and the other was putting labels on boxes and restocking the table and just keeping yourself busy this weekend. That's for sure.
Absolutely. This has been a great weekend. Very, very busy. It's really great to see a lot of our road owners that have all collaborated and come here, and the clinics are just amazing. So I'm leaving the table, Ray, to actually sit in the clinics and watch, and they've all put on a great show. So we're grateful for that.
Yeah, for sure. There was a whole list of clinics. We had some prototype ones, and then, of course, the ones that were related to the freelance forum in this really fantastic facility that has been put together by Michelle Kempema and the Colorado Model Railroad Museum, driving the Colorado Rail Proto Meet. This is a place that's going to hold some really great RPMs for a long time to come.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is an amazing facility, and Michelle gave us conference room A, so we were able to set up camp there and put all of our branding and set up the computers, and it's just an amazing atmosphere here, and it's quite comfortable. And I'm looking at the black curtain over there. That's about two-thirds of the way through the building, and it'll probably be pushed all the way back next year, as she'll probably take up the entire facility here. But wow, there's a lot of railroads here.
A lot of railroads, a lot of models, a lot of vendors, a lot of great things happening here. And you talked about the clinics, and I've been to other RPMs where the clinics seem to be kind of far away and removed. Not here. They're right here, right off the floor.
No, it's about 30 paces for me to get from this chair into the clinic room, and which makes it very, very convenient for me to take off the sales hat and put on the I'm going to enjoy this clinic hat and take advantage of that opportunity.
One thing that also makes this special, and you've taken full advantage of, is the tie-in with the Colorado Model Railroad Museum and the amazing stuff that we were able to do there in the last couple nights. Talk about some of the activities that happened over at the museum.
Well, they allowed us to put trains. I think we put 11 trains that are all freelance equipment on the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. A lot of the operators and owners of these railroads got to actually operate on the Colorado Model Railroad Museum, and many of the folks that did that, they said, man, just doing this was worth the trip to come out here to run my train or see my train run on this museum layout. So it's a lot of taking down for me after the event here. I'll probably spend all of tomorrow taking equipment off of the layout. But wow, just to see those trains move in that environment on that layout, there is no better stage to display freelance equipment than that layout.
And then, of course, the office car special, the first time you've put that together. An amazing participation level to that. Talk about the office car special.
Yeah, so the office car special idea, the Colorado Model Railroad Museum said we could put trains on the layout, and I thought, let's do an office car special, because that's like the showpiece for each freelance railroad is an office car. And I knew several roads had them, and I thought maybe we'd get like a 7 or 8 car train for starters. Ray, we had 23 cars on that train. It was a bear to run over the railroad, but we did. What's special about the office car special is that it represents the community. It represents the people that own these railroads, and to see all of them come together on this one train was very symbolic of just how amazing this community is. So that was quite a treat to see.
Absolutely, and it was amazing, and how everybody took a different approach to it was really cool, and I can't wait. We shot some video last night. We'll be getting that put together and getting that shared out there. But everybody took a different, just like the freelance railroads themselves, everybody has a different angle, a different look to it, and they express that through their office cars.
Absolutely. The train reminded me a lot of the Aprico specials, where you've got all these different business cars with very different designs. They speak to the ownership of the road, but they're all together running on the same train. It's just a great symbol of unity for the community.
Awesome stuff, and this is just the start of things. This is just the first one. How do you feel about now we're almost there. We got a little bit more, a few hours more to go. How are you feeling about the Freelance Forum?
I'm just excited. You know, it's a little nerve-wracking to do the first event remotely from another location, but the folks at the Colorado Railroad Museum Model Railroad Museum have made it very, very user-friendly for me. And just to see the showing, you know, there's people from the East Coast here, people from the West Coast here. Hank Stevens drove up from Georgia, right? And to see it all come together, a lot of my anxiety has been relieved with this is actually pulled off, and folks are really enjoying this. So it's the first one, to your point, and I think this is the beginning of a very long tradition.
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to bring people together and all different walks, but all big fans of model railroading, and then of course bringing all these freelance roads together and being able to walk around and see the different freelance roads and talk to those folks. We've got some more folks we want to get to talk to before the day ends, and you've got some clinics to get to and attend. We're going to be having you back on the podcast here very soon. Anyway, we're going to be talking about freelance railroading, and if you're out there wondering how to get started, we're going to have some answers to that. But until the next time, Chris, we'll let you get back to work here at the Freelance Forum at the 2025 Colorado Rail Proto Meet.
Thanks, Ray. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.
Well, it's great to sit here with a fellow podcaster, Ken Zieska. Good to see you, Ken.
Good to see you, Ray. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Great to be here at the Colorado Rail Proto Meet. This is my first time. Is this your first time in Colorado for this meet, or were you here last year?
No, this is first time here. As a matter of fact, when Michelle was setting it up, we talked about how we do ours in Minnesota, and I made a commitment right there that I was going to come out and see what she does, because everybody knows if Michelle does something, it's over the top, right?
We are so blessed to have Michelle in this hobby. I jokingly call her the mother of model railroading, and I say jokingly, but I think she is the mother of model railroading. She just has that way of doing things, and of course, like you said, the professionalism. And now she's got it moved into this amazing facility. Let's talk about where we're at right now, and the opportunity she's going to have when the Colorado Model Railroad Museum is going to have in the future.
Right. This facility, I'm not sure what you call it. It's almost like an airplane hangar. It's huge. It's bright. Everything about it's terrific. What a sight. And then to be able to go over to see the museum and come here, I would say that if she's missed on anything, she hasn't had enough prototype railroad running back and forth so we could see it. But there's so much here, so many, with all the displays, all the train layouts, all the clinics. This is just an amazing weekend.
I'm glad you mentioned the lighting. It was not something I really picked up on, but now that you say it, it really is nice and bright here. There's no real dark spots, and we're sitting in front of the table where Butch Eiler has been doing some weathering and doing some learning stations. And now I'm noticing that this is actually some really good light for all these type of projects. It's
brilliant, and a few years ago I redid the lighting in my layout and saw how much it improved it. And so I'm sensitive to lighting. Over the years, as you get older, you start developing, your eyesight doesn't handle light as well. And here it's fantastic, and to see Butch's work, that was quite a treat. I appreciate the chance to learn from him.
Well, yeah, there's a great way to learn, and that's really what the RPM is about, that ability to sit down with somebody and be able to share knowledge, learn from them on a one-on-one, and be able to ask those more focused questions. Clinics are great, and you'd be able to sit in a room and you get the overall, but to be able to just drill down on your specific question is really an amazing thing to be able to do.
Absolutely, and you're not just seeing the technique, but he hands you the brush and he says, here, you try it. We're doing something similar in our division. We call it a Share Your Skills Day, and we're setting up stations, and you'll have people that are, quote unquote, the experienced or the expert people, but we're saying, dull code a couple cars, bring them in, bring your locomotives in. We're going to set them up on a programming station. We'll make some scenery with you. And the whole idea is, if you walk away with clean hands, it's your fault. We want you to get involved. We want you to get your hands on and walk away with something you built.
Well, we like dirty hands and dirty cars and being able to teach people about modeling for sure. Now, I think we should be really excited at the fact that we have one of only 7 or 8 S-scalers on the entire planet here with us at the, and as we see Ken kind of roll his eyes back and whatnot. But talk about, the different scales that are actually covered here. And it's always great to see from Z to N, H, O, S, O. It's all here.
It is, and I think that's something that people don't recognize is skills transfer between scales just so well, and that's the fun about it. Yes, you're right. There's only 5 S-scalers in the whole world, and I appreciate that.
I said 7. You say 5.
Well, okay, but we have 2 of them that are kind of getting old, and they don't do as much. But your point is well taken. There's not a lot of us, but we like to be out. We like to be seen. And then the other thing we like to do is invite people to come over and operate at the railroad, because I get N-scalers and other people out on the outskirts of the railroad on the other side of the retaining walls where they can't see me, and I hear them say, boy, this S-scale sure operates well. I could get used to doing it, and I take great pleasure in that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you, S-scale really is an amazing scale when it comes to the visual. And when you start to, I'm an HO guy, and when you start to see S and O and the little bit bigger scale, that tangibility, I guess, of it, that visual is just really amazing.
It is. But again, talking about the different scales, that's one of the great things about our division. I can have people come over and run my railroad, but I'm running 40 and 50-foot cars. I can go over to another gentleman's railroad and run 85-foot auto parts cars and auto racks. I can go over to Tom Gazer's and move red dirt around. It's just the great anything. I don't have to worry about the fact that I can't get 85-foot cars in S-scale. I can go over to Greg Dahl's house and run 85-foot cars. So the community is just so fantastic that way. That's what I like about it.
You mentioned a little, just a few moments ago, about your division, the Twin Cities division, and I think you guys really set the standard as one of the best divisions out there. The activity that division does and how it runs. Talk a bit about the Twin Cities division and what you folks have been up to.
Well, the Twin Cities division, it like most divisions, it went a little bit dormant for a while. Then we got some people in that brought some energy, and the whole thing that they brought in was the fact that this is community. And in this day and age, everybody sits in their little silos. We didn't want that. We want people to come out and be community, meet people, get to know them. A few years ago, we had some N-scalers get involved, and we hadn't had much for N-scale. But these guys came in gangbusters, and they say they're having a coup and they're going to take it over. And that's okay, because they're fun people, and we have fun operating on their layouts. They have fun operating with us. And the whole key is you join model railroading or you join the NMRA for the trains, and you stay for the people. You stay for the friends.
Well, and I think what you hit on, too, you have to be accepting of the change, right, and allow the wave to happen. Otherwise, it does go dormant, and then you lose. But buy into that change, and being accepting to it helps the longevity of the division.
Sure. You know, I can put together a number of different presentations on railroading in the transition era in Minneapolis. And people nowadays, a lot of the young kids nowadays, it's like ancient history, and they're not interested in that. So I've got to be excited about modeling what's going on out in the area and talking about it. And when they talk about where they go rail fanning, I want to hear about it, because I remember those spots, but I remember them with different locomotives and different cars going by. But it's still all the same thing. It's that excitement of railroading that draws us all in.
I think what you said there was some really great advice about relatability. And if you want to attract younger folks to a division or to a club or to any organization or gathering of folks, you got to make it where they can understand it and relate to it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned clubs, because a lot of folks, a lot of kids, a lot of young people, even old people, don't have the space or the time to build a model railroad. But we have some phenomenal clubs in the Twin Cities area, and that's a great way for them to get involved. The T-track, the N-track, the little square things, whatever the little square things are. Little square things.
Little square things.
Yeah. It's such a great way to get involved with the hobby, and you can sit and appreciate that, because they can grow their skills that way. And then hopefully, if I'm lucky, they'll come over and do some scenery on my layout too.
Yeah, you gotta draw them in, and then put them to work on your layout and help you get it accomplished for sure.
Absolutely, that's absolutely right. Because if you can't put somebody to work, what fun is it? So, good.
Well, that's great. That's great. So, where can we find more about the Twin Cities division of the NMRA?
TCDNMRA.org is our website. We also have a TCD NMRA Facebook page. But the key thing is go to that website, because we've got a guy, Damien Kostra, who's maintaining that for us. High energy guy, terrific about it. And when things are happening in our division, that's where you go to find it. And of course, you can go to the Crossing Gate podcast on YouTube, or on the podcast itself is anywhere you can download podcasts. And after you're done listening to Around the Layout, and you're now excited about more model railroading, then you can come listen to us joke and laugh about it.
You guys have an absolute blast on the podcast. It's always fun to listen to you and Uncle Tom and everybody else that's joined you on there. You've got William Sampson on at times, and a great cast of characters, but all talking about the nice round table discussion on model railroad topics. Lots to learn. We love working with you folks and being in that the hobby within the hobby, the podcasting aspect of it. You guys, again, do a phenomenal job, and it's always fun to work with you.
You know, and it's part of building the community, because I come here and I see people whose names I've heard on other podcasts or I've seen their YouTubes, and I feel like it's community. It's people that I know. And that's just makes the hobby greater for me. I appreciate that.
Well, it's fun. It's fun to connect in all the different ways and the technology that's afforded to us to be able to do that. But it's always great to see you in person. No screens in front of us, live and in person. Good to see you, Ken, here at the Colorado Rail Proto Meet.
Yep. Thank you very much, Ray. I've enjoyed that, and good luck to you and the FRA.
The last time you were on the podcast, we had you by phone, and you were talking to myself and Tony Cook on the What's Happening show. Glad to be able to run into you in your home state of Colorado, where Intermountain Railway calls home. Got Chris Palomarez. Chris, good to see you.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Awesome to have you. Awesome to see you here. Colorado Rail Proto Meet, second year. Awesome venue, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot bigger than the last time. Last time was kind of small, and this one is definitely larger.
It must be nice for Intermountain to have a home game, right? This is like a home game for you guys. You travel all over the place promoting Intermountain, the products that you create, but now you got one right in your backyard. This is your home field.
It's nice being able to sleep in our own beds, definitely a game changer when it comes to that.
Yeah, but a little easier on the expense report, too.
Oh, yeah, and Frank likes that.
Everybody likes a little less of an expense report, except for the guys that are trying to put things on it. So, but we're here in front of the Intermountain booth. We've got a lot of great products showing here, and love to find out what's going on and what's new at Intermountain, because I know you guys are putting out some really cool stuff.
Well, we're working on several projects right now. We have the GP10 first build samples, and we've had quite a few people asking about those. We went in and made some enhancements to it over the first run. We have a new radio antenna that we tooled up just for this, just to make it a little bit more accurate, a little bit finer looking on the roof. Figure, on the roof of stuff, people can see it a little easier, so it'll stand out, So we did that. We also enhanced the handrails. They're a little bit more flexible, so it's easier to handle on a switcher. That is kind of a game changer. So we have samples of that on display right now.
Awesome. When you're at an RPM, you must feel a little bit more pressure, a little more heat to make sure that the details are accurate. Is that the case?
Oh, it's always the case. I'd say a lot of our customers are very sophisticated when it comes to the level of detail and where the details are at physically on a model. And we want to be able to answer that and be knowledgeable about what we're talking about and what we're showing. So, yeah, the RPM is heat, but I'll tell you what, every show is heat. So, yeah, in particular this, I think we get a lot of different questions. And actually what's neat about the RPM for me is just the knowledge base of everybody that has their own sort of space where they kind of specialize in.
Yeah, like hobbies within the hobby, right? Like some guys are just completely laser focused on, some of the minute details, and it's really wild what they know about them.
Yeah, the research, the knowledge base of research of all the different sort of segments of the hobby, segments of interest and stuff, historical knowledge. Some of these photos, doing my own research for Intermountain, some photos can be pretty challenging to find. And these guys will come with everything that they've collected, sort of like their lifelong mission to research a certain aspect of a railroad at a certain time frame. And just being able to get together and say, oh, hey, what were the details like in this era? And if they don't know, they know who to ask. And things happen very quickly as far as figuring out detail-specific information about a model that we might be working on.
Boy, isn't that a testament to the fact of if you're out there photographing now, grab everything you possibly can, because 10, 15, 20 years from now, somebody's going to want that information.
Well, just interestingly, this just happened this last week. A collection came available, and they were all old binders of train pictures that were developed and printed and put into a photo album, and they were about ready to throw this stuff away. And this is historical stuff from 1980 and 1990, diesels and stuff. And I was just telling Angie's relatives at the time, don't do that, I want to look at it first. And they held on to them, fortunately. And they gave me some Super 8 and also some negatives for some of these things. So I'm super jazzed to check out some of these photo albums that I inherited from them.
It must have been like gold.
Oh, it was exciting. It's sort of like getting a Morning Sun book for the first time and flipping through the pages and go like, oh, what do they got? And it was neat to kind of experience that time frame again.
Awesome stuff. And of course, as you on the manufacturing side, all that gold that gives you all the ability to get it right, to be able to put out a model that is an accurate representation of the prototype, a challenge. But that's all about what the Colorado Rail Proto Meet is about, being able to share that information and get you closer to what you're looking to do. And it must be great to be able to be in an environment as a manufacturer where you've got those like-minded people to be able to talk to.
Oh, absolutely. And what I find in particularly interesting about this meet is the presence of the freelance community too, and the proto freelance community as well. There's a lot of just techniques that are shared, people detailing, painting, decaling, and stuff like that can be interchanged across both the RPM and then the freelance. But I think it gets the freelance people a little bit more historical background to kind of go out and figure out maybe alternate scenarios for whatever their layout, their modeling is. And I think it's really contagious as far as my excitement for being a part of that at kind of like the ground floor. Intermountain just released our own sort of proto-lance venture. There's a real need for more subjects and more paint schemes and more possible railroads for people to model. We wanted to explore a facet in proto-lance, and we felt that, as we've been seeing kind of in real time here with railroads sort of diminishing in quantity, like how many class ones are in existence today and kind of decreasing, and potentially UP and Norfolk Southern and stuff like that. So we wanted to actually expand our scope. So we're starting off with a per diem boxcar, and the per diem era was this era where a boxcar could go out to a destination and wouldn't have to come all the way back to the home railroad to find another shipper. It was trying to make things a little bit more efficient on that front. And there were some other economic stuff that I covered in my presentation. The thing that really grabs me about that per diem era was it was a bunch of colorful boxcars of railroads that nobody ever heard about. It's like the St. Joe route, where was that? South Branch Valley? I never heard of that before. City of Prineville, So, and a lot of them had maps. Some of them, had that 70s groovy sort of stylistic graphic design on it. So what Intermountain is doing is we're seeking out kind of brand recognition railroads. And those railroads were developing a social media presence on YouTube and some other locations. And we're bringing back some per diem cars that we wish existed, starting off with the Camas Prairie Railroad up in Idaho. That one we felt would have lent itself really well for the per diem concept. The next one is the Colorado Midland. Colorado Midland was a kind of a local railroad for the state of Colorado, obviously. It went from Colorado Springs over to the western slope, and a lot of it's gone, but it's one of those railroads we feel like people are going on Jeep trails and trying to find the actual right-of-way, and so there's some interest on it. The New York, Ontario, and Western, the old woman, old and weary. We felt that if it could have just held on just a little bit longer, that they probably would have jumped right onto a per diem scheme just to kind of get that additional revenue into their business. And then the last one is the Tonopah and Tidewater. That's another one where people are taking Jeep trails, trying to find some of the remnants of the old railroad, relive sort of what the railroad was. And developing this concept, it kind of gave us a lot more availability of what railroads we can introduce as paint schemes.
So a different spin on this. Instead, you've worked before of obviously home shops here with the Freelance Forum, where they do box cars and they do other rolling stock with freelance railroads, but you're doing it in a little bit different take of actual existing railroads, real railroads, but giving it a freelance spin, the what if covering, which is just a different angle. It's a really neat angle actually to look at that whole thing.
Well, you wouldn't believe how much research went into this. I mean, I was going back looking at 1970s logo styles, the fonts that were available, from Linotype, looking at the economics, looking at the leasing companies, and developing a plausible scheme for if that railroad would have existed, what it would look like as a per diem boxcar. So we're launching that. We're getting that out, getting people excited about imagining some of these railroads in different contexts.
Well, what's amazing is that you find a lot of model railroaders, whether they're freelancers or prototype modelers, love history.
Yes.
So now you're taking a page of history and bringing it forward and letting us know essentially about railroads. And you mentioned 3 that I had never heard of before prior to this interview. And now I'm sure that's just going to continue, and being able to educate us on it wasn't just 4 or 5 railroads. There were multitudes upon multitudes of railroads out there. And now we get to know their name.
Exactly. And not all of them ended up in mergers. Some of them, I think one of them that was kind of a runner-up honorable mention was the Chagrin and Southern. I think just that name of that railroad is hilarious, and it would lend itself well to kind of like a freelance or proto-lance style boxcar or depiction at all.
I've said before, if you want to find a name for a freelance railroad, all you got to do is just go back and look at some of the prototypes, and that's exactly what you've done here with this project.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about the car that it's going to be on.
It's on a HO scale Pullman Standard 5277 rail box style boxcar. They were extremely common, and a lot of the smaller railroads had colorful paint schemes on this exact car.
Well, I know I do a lot of rail fanning in the Northeast, and especially along the CSX routes between Buffalo and Albany, and then of course the river line from Albany south and around Selkirk. And that's what you see a lot out there. It's not just one color going down the train. It is a patched quilt of cars, right? It's just a whole bunch. So now through Intermountain, you're going to be able to provide that look as well with these new type freelance yet prototype cars. I guess what's the term you're using to call them?
Well, I think the term in the community is proto-lance because it's realistic in far as aspect of the railroad, but interpretation is kind of separated from the actual timeline a bit.
What's also going to be fun for you, and I'm sure of this, is when those cars hit the market and they get in hands of modelers like we see out here in this room.
Yeah.
What they're going to do to these cars thereafter, and once they get to their roads, and maybe even some further patching and weathering, and really bringing them to life with the techniques that they have and they're sharing in this room.
Well, yeah, and I also wanted to maybe expand the market possibly because there's some people that may not know which way to go with a freelance railroad for themselves. Maybe painting every single piece of equipment might be challenging. So we just might want to have a turnkey solution for a modern interpretation for the NYO and W. It gives that modeler a go like, okay, cool. I'm really into that idea. And I don't have to paint everything. So it's maybe a quicker, easier start to get into freelancing.
Well, awesome stuff. Now, let's talk about prototype. If you are a hardcore prototype modeler who says, no, I want absolute prototype, I know Intermountain's got something for you as well.
Yeah, we also have our HO scale ACF 4650. This is a ACF covered hopper from also the 1970s, 1980s. We're doing a bunch of new stuff on this. We're doing a new trough hatch to mimic the fiberglass replacement hatches that were seen later in service starting about mid-1990. This will be for the first time applied to our models for CSX and BNSF. We're also doing 2 other different roof walk styles that prototypically mimic the Apex tight lock and also the Gibson grip strut style walkways. And we're getting everything as road and delivery specific as possible for some of the cars that are depicted as delivered.
Awesome stuff. And now we talked about either prototype or proto-lance or freelance or whatever. You got to have power to pull these. Let's talk about some of these locomotives that you have on display.
And it's great because the Tier 4s are offered in prototype as well as freelance-inspired paint schemes. We have our Famous Image Collector Series, which include celebrating America's 250th birthday next year. We also have the SPSF, as if it would have lived in later on, So we have SPSF with a heritage locomotive, and then we also have the V&O with a heritage locomotive honoring Al McClellan. We have announced Union Pacific, Norfolk Southern, and BNSF. There's a new configuration for the BNSF version for our prototype modelers. Those are the heavies, they call them, with the high-ad trucks. Also, we're first time doing the CPKC. That came out kind of like right after we did our first round of prototype announcements. So we did some research and felt that we could also offer CPKC for the first time.
Well, I'll tell you, the Colorado Rail Proto Meet is definitely not a one-scale meet. It is a multitude of scales, and you brought multitude of scales with you. I see HO on the side we're standing, but on the other side, we see a bunch of N-scale offerings as well. Tell us about those.
Well, pretty much the HO Pullman Standard 5277, as well as the ACF 4650, HO and N scale. We're doing them both scales.
Both at the same time?
Not exactly the same time. They'll be staggered in their production, but the announcements at the same time. So N scalers, don't feel left out. We have you covered for these as well.
Most of them say they have to wait years to get taken care of, and it sounds like you're gonna get them taken care of pretty close.
Actually, yeah. We want to get these out there and get reservations on them so we can get right into production. We have our factory out overseas ready to jump on these as soon as we're giving them numbers.
And let's talk about the locomotives that are over on that N-scale shelf.
Yeah, we have another delivery of N-scale SD40-2s arriving right now. They're becoming available for purchase, and that's the Norfolk Southern low nose and both HTC and FlexCoil trucks. That's the first time in N-scale with the FlexiCoil. Union Pacific, Watco, we have Helm, and a myriad of other paint schemes too. What's really interesting about the Canadian Pacific that we're delivering is each road number is completely different detail and body than the others. They're all individuals. So you get one in N scale and it has road number specific detail.
Awesome stuff. And then I see at the very end, Intermountain has really set the standard for wheel sets.
Oh yeah, our wheels have become kind of pretty renowned, I'd say, in the modeling community. A lot of clubs actually standardize on them, but just we have a very balanced, free-rolling, kind of tapered axle and metal wheel.
You got industry standards actually right next to each other. You got KD, and then you've got Intermountain wheel sets. Mm-hmm. No matter what you're running on your railroad, it should have Intermountain wheels and KD couplers as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion on it. But again, the two I think are the industry standards. Intermountain, you guys are putting out some really amazing models. Always fun to see your new releases. Glad to be able to stand here and talk to you at the Colorado Rail Proto Meet on your home turf here in Colorado. Chris, great talking with you.
Thank you so much. Great talking to you. Take care, everybody out there listening.
Well, that's a wrap on the interviews, but now joined by the head of all of the fun activities we had over the weekend in Greeley, Colorado, Michelle Kempema. Good to see you again, Michelle.
Hi, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Good to have you back here, and it was so fun being in Greeley, Colorado. My first trip to Greeley, Colorado, my first look at the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. I was blown away. What an amazing facility you got there.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even get to give you my private tour. Michelle's 2-hour drag you around the building tour.
Which only means I'm going to have to come back for that. So that's a good thing. Yeah, for sure. And I figured out like the first thing I should have done was go upstairs to the mezzanine. And what an amazing thing just to have that mezzanine where you can just see the whole thing, kind of get your bearings and get that overview.
Yeah, I love it up there. And my office is up there. So in that corner, we have 5 people and 4 desks in our overcrowded office space. That was the tree making room when Dave built the museum. But sometimes I just step out of the office and just look over the layout.
Let's talk about a room with a view. You've got an office with a view and a beautiful one and a beautiful layout and one that makes it unique. We love seeing how unique RPMs are. And you've got 2 very unique things. Well, technically 3 unique things with your RPM. Of course, the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. And then we had the Freelance Forum for the first time with Chris Palmieri and Home Shops. And then you had the Narrow Gauge Gathering as well.
Well, I attempted a narrow gauge gathering. I'm not sure how well we succeeded at that one, but we tried. We at least had a snack. But I got a lot of feedback from the narrow gauge people that came, and I have some better ideas for next year on how to highlight that.
You know, and Michelle, I want to hit on that just as you mentioned that. And this, I think, really makes the difference. And I know you're going to credit your team, and rightfully so. You have an awesome team. I'm trying to think of the young lady, her name. All I saw was smiles out of her the entire Madison. And I said, if I could smile half as much as Madison does, my life would be it would be sunshine and rainbow. She was so happy.
And she's our children's programming director. She's amazing.
Well, she must be some really happy kids going through there, because she is a ray of sunshine for sure. And it was great. But you've got this awesome team, very happy, very enthused. And you're willing to listen, and it's not just the way it's going to be. This is an evolving project. This is something that isn't just, okay, we ran it the first year, now we're going to run it the second year, and then, okay, now we've got the formula figured out. You're still doing the math.
Correct. And I think that's because of our philosophy on it, why we're doing it. It gives us that viewpoint that it's different than we're hosting an event. We need this to be successful. We need ticket sales. That's not the approach we had to this. The approach was, we need to provide programming to the modelers that we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? The people that don't come and operate on our layout, because there's all sorts of modelers out there who have home layouts, build things, and they're not just operators. And so our mission was to find modelers, give them programming, and create social connections in the hobby. So it's a different way to look at an event, I think. But it also helps us not take everything to heart, in a bad way. We listen to things and go, oh, well, maybe that would be better. Right. And so it gives us the freedom to change.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. That, and in a sense, it ensures that the next one is just going to be that much better than the one before. And continuous improvement and embracing that is so huge. Talk about also the steps that you've taken to embrace and acquire that feedback. I know when I got home, there was a survey waiting for me, and I got to take that. Talk about gathering that, and then some of the things that you've learned from that.
Well, I decided to send out a huge survey. I learned how to use Google Forms, and I love them. So expect surveys out of me in the future.
Expect me to ask a lot of questions, but go ahead.
I sent the survey out. We got 57 responses over the last few days, since it hasn't been out super long as of this recording. But 57 is a pretty good amount of responses from people to get back right away. All in all, everything is pretty positive. Of course, everybody has an opinion about this and that. And I get matching ones, not enough of this, too much of the same thing, right, from people. But all in all, we had 63% of people say it was a 10.
That's a win right
there. And 26% said it was a 9 at least. So together that is 89% of people were way off the top of the chart. So I think it was good. I think one of my favorite pieces of data was, do you plan to attend next year? And 73% of people said yes. And another 20% said maybe if I can.
That's fantastic. Yeah, you didn't lose anybody, and I just think that you're poised to gain on all of that number too. And talking about let's move right into, because I really want to talk about this venue, because I think that was one of the biggest changes from last year to obviously to this year was not only just the address of where the event was being held, but the type of facility as well.
Yes, Greeley has this amazing event center. It's called Island Grove Event Center. It's an old Native American name called the Island Grove. The river used to go around the land that it's on. And this event center is just such a perfect design for an RPM because it's got 3 really nicely done classrooms, very comfortable. The air conditioning works really well.
Yes, it does.
and a huge event space. And this year, because we didn't use the entire event space, everybody's trailers got to stay inside the whole weekend. So they got to unhook their trailers and keep them behind the curtain. And I got a lot of feedback that they loved that. So that was nice. We had enough space to have social tables. We had plenty of display tables. Well, I thought we had plenty of display tables. I put up 30 and then we had to add more. In the midst of the morning on Saturday, we added 3 more tables. And but the venue itself I just think is perfect. One thing about it is that it is so big. Sometimes it didn't feel like there were a lot of people there, because if you put 90 people into the 3 clinic rooms, your huge space suddenly seems a lot emptier.
As a big person, I liked that, to be quite honest. I wasn't getting walked into, nor did I walk into too many people. And it gave you room to spread out. And I want to go back to the model tables, because I've been at RPMs where they got to beg and plead for people to bring stuff, and you were putting more tables up. I mean, that's what they call a good problem. You had a lot of people willing to share, and there was a lot of models out there.
And I had other display tables outside of those 33 that were right there. I had some others that were specialty items. You know, we had like the ships on white tablecloths over in the corner, the shipbuilder. And, so it worked out great. And now, granted, some had to go home on Saturday. So, and I think it was a learning experience for my local people that if you come on Sunday, you might not see all the models because some people can only come on Saturday. So you do the weekend,
right.
So you get to see all of it. And there were some new Sunday things that weren't there Saturday. So it was kind of a mix. And I think that was a learning experience for the Colorado people, for sure. Oh, I did one thing that I got really good feedback on is that we set up a table with a photo booth, like one of those little white boxes with the lights, the good lighting. So you could put your model in there and get that like professional photo. And I saw people using it. So that made me really happy.
I regret. I wanted to take a couple of photos in that. And I meant to do that, to take a couple models over and photograph them. And yeah, that was a great touch. And all those things that you start to add a little bit of piece at a time and try new things is all the reasons why I really do believe your group is poised for success with this. The professionalism. You know, Michelle, I still have sitting to my side the table cards that I filled out. They were so nicely done. I can't even throw them out. They're great.
I can't take credit for that. That was Chris at Home Shops. He made those because he asked for them. And I said, Chris, I am sorry. This year I'm so busy. I don't think I have time to do the design. So he did that and he made those. And they're fabulous. I loved them. They were really nice. Yeah,
but they were still there. They were still a part of it. And so very much so was Chris Palmieri and the Freelance Forum. And again, that unique flavor. Let's talk a bit about the Freelance Forum and that unique thing that brought to the Colorado Rail Proto Meet.
You know, I think it was, I heard comments from people that how nice that we were inclusive to all modeling, right? Because RPMs in the past have been the rivet counters, but it is modeling. It's the same locomotive. It just has a different name on the side, right? So it's the same modeling and everything. So I loved having the freelance people there. I thought it was great learning about their railroads. I did spend time asking people, so this is your line? Tell me about it. What does it do? Right? Because it was unique and different to me. It stood out to me because I didn't recognize it. So I love that. Home Shops did a great job at creating their own clinic tracks. We had one room that was just clinic after clinic of freelance topics, which was nice because if you're into it, you're going to like that clinic, right? If you're a freelancer, you're probably going to love every clinic in that room. I thought it was neat just to see people talking to each other about freelance modeling. I had some of my museum volunteers even more freelance than just a prototype railroad with a different name. I have a 3D printer who made a Halo train. I don't know if you caught that. The train with all the tanks. He 3D printed that whole thing, including the rail cars.
Wow.
Right. And he's done amazing and he made it for our sci-fi event. So it wasn't like somebody going, oh, why do we have this toy on the table? No, they made it for events at the museum and it's modeling. And Jennifer had her superhero train on there because she made it for a specific event, but she did all the work on it. She weathered them. She decaled them. She created the themes of the superheroes on it. I see it as modeling. I see it as freelance modeling. And so I was thrilled to have that on the table. So I know for our prototype people, I think it was a little hard for some of them.
Well, I think so, but I think if they would have, for those and I think very few that it would have been hard for, if they would go over and strike up a conversation with the freelance folks. I know that I've had many of conversations both here on the podcast and off the podcast, how much they know about prototype railroading. In fact, a lot of them have used a lot of in-depth prototype knowledge to make their freelance stories plausible. So
right, you have to do a lot of research to create a freelance, a lot of research. I did really branch out, and we had a couple of 3-rail modelers there who had custom built cars.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I loved seeing their work. They custom built those cars, and some of them were to prototype, even though it was a 3-rail car. So I'm sure some people had apoplexy over that too, but I was glad they were there. I was thrilled to see what they did. So we're about modeling. And so one thing I did want to discuss maybe with you, and maybe this is a bigger discussion, we use the term RPM as a rail prototype modeler meet because it's kind of an industry standard RPM.
Right.
Everybody knows an RPM is not a train show. It's something for modelers, la, 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 la. But I even got a feedback on it that said, you've got to rename it because you had more than prototype there. And RPM is only allowed for prototype use.
Yeah, I would say from what I've learned, and I'll go out on the limb, and you can send all the hate mail to aroundthelayout@gmail.com.
Or Michelle at CMRM.
There you go. Well, I'll forward any hate mail to you, and we can read together. RPM to me is like open source, right? It's just been one of these names that's been allowed to be used. I see other RPMs that do other things that are outside perhaps the strict right down to it. I think you got to let it go. I think you just got to let it go. The overall spirit of an RPM is the fact that it really is drilled in, focused on the modeling, focused on the people, the techniques. It really is just this special type event. And whether you're talking about freelance or you're talking about prototype, it's about people coming together, sharing ideas, sharing passion in a very unique way, very focused, drilled in way. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter, freelancer, but just let it go. And if you just say, if you'd like to wear a sign around your neck that says, I only want to talk about prototype, you're more than welcome to walk around the RPM and ignore all the freelance people and vice versa. But I think you'd be going against the flow of what really happens there. It's just a very unique and very special way for all of us to be able to come together and share our passion.
So as I was thinking about the feedback on that, and my narrow gauge piece needs to be built out, right? I need to create more programming for that and for those narrow gauge people because we do have them here. This is Colorado, the land of the narrow gauge. Yeah. But at the same time, it seemed like I had the Colorado Rail Prototype Meet and I had this freelance forum, narrow gauge gathering. And then I was like, I actually should have added the prototype party.
There you go. Maybe for 2026 and beyond. And yeah, let's talk about 2026 and what you have planned, because I know there's a little bit of a date change for 2026. Talk a bit about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the National Australian Shepherd Dog Show has our weekend, and they booked it 5 years ago. So we have to move our weekend, and it's going to be October 16 to 18, the third weekend in October next year. It's a little unfortunate because it does compete with another RPM, but it'll just be for 1 year, and then we'll move back. And we have a choice at that point. We can do last week of September or second week in October. So I'll do some thinking on that. I don't have a final decision yet, but if you have an opinion, you might want to send me your thoughts. But, we have those two options. I do want to keep it in the fall because our leaves are turning. They turn earlier in Colorado than they do on the East Coast. So if you ever want to ride a train, I always want to keep that part of this RPM. Go ride a train in Colorado.
Yeah. It was picturesque, like I say, coming out of the airport in Denver. You see the Rocky Mountains. You think you could just walk right to the base of them and just start going up them. Of course, I don't go up mountains, if you know me. No, it's right there. Plains. But yeah, it's beautiful.
We have a beautiful view, right? And within an hour of Greeley, you can be in Rocky Mountain National Park. Like you really can just drive up into them. And so people should do that when they come. Plan some extra days. Go see the mountains. So next year will be the third weekend in October, same venue. I've booked the Saturday, Sunday because I already booked it before this RPM happened. I booked the next year. But we're thinking about maybe format, like maybe it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday layout tour. So anything's possible in 27.
Right.
Next year's already set, so we're going to do it. But we're open to feedback on all of that. I am a person who embraces change. I'm good with change. It doesn't have to be rigid to this exact thing. So I feel like this is, like you said, I think this event is going to be a growing event. We're all going to grow together and build what we want it to be together.
Yeah, and that's what makes it fun. It makes it fun to participate in it because you know that it's going to evolve. It's not going to be the same old, same old. It's not going to be predictable. It's going to be something that's going to have a lot of uniqueness. And another thing that makes it unique, and I don't think we've covered and really talked about this enough, the Colorado Model Railroad Museum being attached to this and the events that you were able to do over there. You had the first ever freelance forum office car special that ran on the layout. It was so overwhelmingly big, you had to try to shove it into a siding. It was hanging out of a siding. It was so well participated.
What we call a no fitter.
Yeah. So it was a big train. And then we had a lot of freelance locomotives running around along with prototype. And then obviously the operations that happened on the Friday night, I got to watch that for a bit. And then Saturday, there was plenty of events, the barbecue dinner over at the museum. So you've got this beautiful relationship, obviously being driven by the Colorado Model Railroad Museum, but to be able to have the layout as part of this as well just makes it all that much more special and more capable too.
Yeah, so you get to come and enjoy this big layout, right? So in the operating session, we only have X number of jobs, but we can run a bazillion extra trains. So if you'd ever wanted to run on our layout, it's your opportunity, right? Come and run a train. The freelance trains on Saturday, that was really fun to see all of that. And Chris put in a lot of work. He came in a couple of days early to set up all of their trains. I think next year we'll have more out. Our volunteers didn't always know the consist. Like we've learned a lot on our end how to make that even better. Yeah. So next year it's gonna be awesome.
Well, RPMs are learning events, right? They're about learning model, and it's also learning about how to put on events, and that's what you're doing as well. It's learning all the way around.
For our staff and volunteers, this was their first real year to do something like that, and I cannot commend my staff enough. They were amazing. If you came by the registration table, we had our high school interns from this summer. We hired them back for this event. So they were doing registration and they are fabulous kids on their way to college, and our staff is just so great. And they had a good time too. And I think when your staff and your volunteers are having fun, everybody's having fun. So, and my board showed up, the board of directors who actually decided to put this whole thing on. They had a ball. And half of them are not modelers at all.
Wow.
They don't have a clue. They just walked around and went, wow, look at that. That's amazing. So
again, the exceptional customer service level of your staff, of the people there, the smiles, the helping hand, the guidance just goes to make it that much more enjoyable when you know you're being well taken care of from the top down. It's just an absolutely well run opportunity, and again, I think all poises you all for growth.
Yeah, well, we doubled our number since the year before. We had 145 people the first year, and if you don't count our staff and volunteers, we were right around 280 for attendees this year. So that's a great. I'm thrilled. I love it. We were able, we've got it set for next year. So make sure you come.
Absolutely. Well, we'll all look to make plans to make it out to the 2026 Colorado Rail Proto Meet. Remind us of the dates again, Michelle.
It is October's. I'm going to include the Friday because some people said they didn't know about the Friday part. So it's 16 to 18, 16, 17, 18.
Awesome.
So it'll be that third weekend in October next year. The website, I think, already has the dates up. We will have registration out probably within 2 weeks or so. I'm going to try to just get it all done and get it ready to roll for next year and have it all on the website. Everything that we can put up there for now so far.
So by the time this airs, that may be up. Go ahead and check that out. That is, what's the website, Michelle?
The website is for Colorado, corpm.org.
Awesome. And if you want to find out more about the Colorado Model Railroad Museum, you would go where?
You could go to cmrm.org.
Awesome. So cmrm.org and corpm.org. And of course, you can find all those links on our website, aroundthelayout.com. Michelle, so good to talk to you again. Thank you so much to you and your team for putting on such an awesome event. I had an absolute blast spending time with friends, new and old, out in Greeley, Colorado, getting to see that beautiful museum and, of course, seeing all the things that made up the Colorado Rail Proto Meet. Here's to 2026. I can't wait to be back out in Colorado.
I look forward to seeing you there next year. It was awesome that you came this year. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Around the Layout. Learn more about today's episode, check out past shows, and much more on our website, aroundthelayout.com. Show your support by becoming an operating crew member at aroundthelayout.com/crew. Follow us on social media, aroundthelayout.com/social. And send us your feedback, aroundthelayout@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with us around the layout.